giving birth to my first child.
That's maybe astonishing. But how about, okay, so you know what, okay, so let's say one astonishing, one unbelievable, and one is completely unexplained.
I'm going to still go with that, you know.
Okay, but that, I mean, it is pretty believable, and it's also pretty easily explained.
I don't agree.
Well, giving birth.
A lot of people don't manage to get pregnant.
Yeah, but most do.
And then when they do get pregnant, there's lots of problems.
Yeah.
And things don't always work out. And I think the reason that you're so surprised is because I was always sure I was never going to make it. So it was like a tremendous achievement for me. It wasn't a simple biological thing at all. It was an achievement and it was amazing, and then suddenly I'd made life, and I thought it was totally fantastic. And there are no 2 and 3.
I mean, well, you know, people like have near-death experiences and whatever, or, you know, something. I think you even mentioned something like that before when you willed something to happen when you were a kid.
There's worse things. There's the stuff where I've been thinking something and it's been happening, and I'm not even going to try and explain it. I don't want to try and explain it. I just leave these are mysteries. And
so yeah, exactly, mysteries. You know, give me one example. I know one story that you were never willing to tell me. You only mentioned it once briefly, and I think it was about grandma, I mean, from our other side, doing cards or something, and she said something...
Let's leave the cards. But there was one thing that I will share with you now, because this video is about bye-bye and everything. Before I could have children, and when I wasn't sure I was going to have children, we'd gone to this guy who reads your fingernails, which, as you know, is a very easy thing to do when you know the dynamics of it and everything. But we'd gone to ask him if I would have children, and he had said, the question is not if you will have, but how many. And after you were born, but before Norm was born, I was wondering if I was going to have another child. And one day, we were driving in a car, and I had this vision, and there were 2 boys, and one was a little blonder than you, and you were both actually bending over my bed, and I had my hand on each of your heads, and I knew it wasn't a suff. Somehow I knew it was not a suff. And then Noam was born. And when I got sick with cancer, it suddenly occurred to me that the only position where you could be on either side of my bed, bending over, is if I'm in hospital, because the hospital beds are one size, and you could both be leaning over with my hand on either side, whereas if it's in a double bed or here, that couldn't happen. And then I suddenly thought back to that moment where I knew I was going to have 2 kids, and they're both going to be boys, and interestingly, because at that time it was not clear, both short hair. So I was wondering, when I got to hospital, if I'd had a pre-vision of that last moment with you 2 guys on either side of my bed.